Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, little NASCAR topic today. Toyota has irons in the fire to expand its lineup in NASCAR Cup Series in 2024. On Speedway, Dave Moody's Speedway episode today, the driving topic of the day was about what teams should Toyota look at. At Daytona this week, Toyota Racing Development is making a renewed push to expand its lineup in NASCAR Cup Series, per David Wilson. David Wilson is optimistic about adding new teams for 2024. We've got some good irons in the fire. Wilson told NBC Sports last weekend at Daytona International Speedway, what was once a effective strategy to amass our resources across fewer cars with the marginalization of the areas that we have to play in and flatten out the playing field, we definitely need some more help. When TRD entered NASCAR's Premier Series as a fourth manufacturer 16 years ago, the target was filling roughly a quarter of the 43-car field, but Toyota's fleet always has remained in the single digits, even as NASCAR shrunk to 3 manufacturers and a 40-car field. So last year they only had 2311's 2 cars, and then Joe Gibbs' 4 cars. We know the TRD, Toyota Racing Development driver pipeline has gone through KBM for the last 10 years. This year we'll go through Tricon Garage in the Truck Series, Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity along with Sam Hunt, and then Cup, it's just the 2 teams, Joe Gibbs in 2311. Now if you look at Toyota as a whole, their Lexus brand is in the IMSA series, and Toyota's also in NHRA, and they got their own racing series and some other stuff they're involved in as well. If you look at the landscape of the NASCAR Cup Series, we have 8 Chevrolet teams and 6 Ford teams. Those 8 Chevrolet teams make up 16 charter teams, while the Ford 6 make up 14 charter teams. We all know, and even that article that I was reading, but what David Wilson was saying, they're not going to target some of the elite teams because they know they're not going anywhere. So on the Chevrolet side, Hendrick Motorsports, we all know Hendrick is not leaving Chevrolet. That ain't happening. Rick Hendrick's got too many Chevy dealerships and all that. Richard Childress Racing, no, Childress ain't leaving. Childress has been in Chevrolet since the 70s, 60s. When he started racing, he's only raced at Chevrolet. He's got too much of a history there. He's not going anywhere. In my mind, Kaulig Racing, they're on the RCR campus. So for Mark Kaulig, Chris Rice to take the 2 Cup Kaulig cars, the 3 Xfinity Kaulig cars, and switch over to Toyota, more than likely they would have to leave the RCR campus. And so now you gotta move. You gotta find a shop. You gotta do all that as well. So I think Kaulig is good where they're at. They got the technical alliance with RCR. They're on their campus. I think they're good to go with that. Ford ways, Penske, no. Penske ain't leaving. Wood Brothers, they're not leaving Toyota. They're tied to Penske. I don't think RFK, Roush, Fenway, Keselowski Racing, Roush has 2 tied to Fords. Brad Keselowski has a tie to Fords. I don't think they're leaving. I think the only team that would be high-profile team that has a possibility of switching to Toyota would be Trackhouse. With everything that Justin Marks is wanting to do and has already done, that's a possibility. Stewart-Haas, that's a Ford team I don't think is tied to Ford because they were tied to Chevrolet and they went to Ford. I think Stewart-Haas is a wild card in this. I think eventually, if not in 24 but in 25, Stewart-Haas will get Dodge back in the Cup Series. Wreckware Racing is a possibility. Front Row, Spire, JTG, Legacy Motor Club, and Live Fast. Now, on Speedway with Dave Moody today on XM Satellite Radio, I actually called in and talked to Dave, Rob from Missouri, and what I said to him was Legacy Motor Club. One, you got Noah Gragson, Eric Jones, both former Toyota development drivers. You got 2 7-time champions, Jimmy Johnson, Richard Petty. You also have Jimmy Johnson, who is wanting to do the Indy 500 double. He's still wanting to be involved in IndyCar kind of one-offs. He wants to be involved in the IMSA type racing, the Garage 56 at Le Mans. He's driving that, 24-hour Daytona, those kind of stuff. Toyota's involved in those. Lexus is part of their brand as well in the 24-hour Daytona for the IMSA. Toyota used to be an IndyCar. There's a win-win that brings them back in IndyCar. You add Rick Ware as the second team, because that'll give you 4 charter teams with room to expand. Rick Ware brings you not only those 2 charters that are very valuable, he's got an IndyCar team. So there is another footprint in the IndyCar. So you have Rick Ware Racing, part of Toyota Racing Development in Cup Series. He does occasionally do Xfinity car. He does the IndyCar. You got Jimmy Johnson, Mr. 7-time, who wants to run the double. There's now a Toyota for him in the IndyCar series. And then if you want to buy a charter, or you want to do something with Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware, you could expand, because right now the limit is 4. They both have 2, so there's room for expansion. So, for example, Rick Ware Racing, Cody Ware. I know he races in other forms of racing as well. Let's see what Cody Ware has done. He won the Asian Le Mans Series Championship in 2019 and 2020 for Rick Ware. He competes in the Cup Series and Open Wheel Series and everything. So he would be the ideal. He's young, 27. He's got that experience in other forms of motorsports, IndyCar racing. Let's see here, Xfinity Truck Series, Whelen Modified, yeah. The Complete WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. He raced in 2021. He raced in 2021, 24 Hours Daytona. He's done all kinds of open wheel racing. So that gives Toyota another development there. So say they go to IndyCar with Rick Ware Racing, 4-car team. You add a 5th car for the Indy 500 for Jimmy Johnson. You have the 4 additional Cup teams. It's a win-win. You gain that footprint of other forms of motorsports, and then you can always work upon that and gain, within those footprints, other teams as well. So to me, Legacy Motor Club, Stuart Haas are the win-win. You figure Cody Ware, he runs a Cup car, he runs all the other stuff. If he doesn't want to do Cup full-time, you can have a 3rd car for him to run whatever Cup races he wants, just like you have a 3rd car for Jimmy Johnson. And then you could use that Rick Ware 2 full-time cars, or even a part-time car for either company as your developmental. So you would have Tricon Garage in the Truck Series. You got Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series, Sam Hunt in the Xfinity Series. Now you expand that in the Cup Series. So yeah, you have the 4 full-time for Gibbs. Eventually 4 full-time for 2311. You have 2 full-time running for championship for Legacy Motor Club, 2 for Rick Ware. Now you have the ability to put a developmental driver in there and maybe give them 7 and 10 Cup races this year, next year, and then eventually, when a seat opens up, give them the Cup. So that's my theory on it. JTG would make sense, Live Fast would make sense, Spire, but I think the best 2 is Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware. Now I wish NASCAR would also. Right now, you can have a max of 4 cars. I wish they would take that limit off, like it was back in the day. But you have 4 charter limit, but you can have 6 full-time cars. So if Hendrick, for instance, wanted to run 2 full-time non-chartered cars, they would have to qualify, of course, because the field shouldn't be more than 40 or 43. But then you give that chance to maybe Dale Jr., some of his drivers in Junior Motorsports, or whomever. You can run a 5th car, 6th car without being, give ability to do it. So expand the starting lineup to 43 cars. Let these teams have unlimited number of cars per event, up to obviously the 43. Only 4 charters. So Hendrick, for instance, 4 charter cars. He could enter 4 non-charter cars in Daytona. They got to race their way in. But so with the news of the day of Toyota talking about expansion in the Cup Series and expanding their footprint. My opinion would be Legacy Motor Club and Rickway Racing. As always, thanks for watching the Robert Sports Show. Don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports channel content.